Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Hello, hello, hello.
This is a horror movie podcast. This is the news edition of the show. We normally here to talk about movies and review them, but once a week, or usually most weeks, we get together and talk about the news of the horror world and what movies are in development, and maybe look at some trailers that have come out in the past week. So that's what we're going to do. We got a couple of interesting, juicy tidbits this week.
Juicy.
Juicy, yes. Tim likes it juicy. You had it here first.
Mhm.
Uh, well, we actually have news on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Oh yeah.
reboot, which is currently ongoing. Um,
Mhm.
we have basically things are going well. I mean, let's just get that out of the way. Things are going smoothly, swimmingly, one might
Of
say.
course. Yeah.
This is the Fede Alvarez produced reboot of Texas
Mhm.
Chainsaw Massacre for Legendary Pictures. Uh, they've got rid of the director a week out of shooting and replaced them
Mhm.
with another director. So the director,
Usually a good sign.
yeah, well, I say director, co-directors Ryan and Andy Tohill were directing the film, written by
Mhm.
Chris Thomas Devlin, but that's fallen apart, and apparently David Blue Garcia has been brought in to take their place. And all the footage that was shot by the previous directors has been scrapped entirely. So
All week's worth.
all week's worth. So something about what they shot, they did not. The
Mhm.
producers, whoever, the studio did not like it. They've
Who?
completely jettisoned the whole thing.
Sorry. Who was the original director that got fired?
Two directors, Ryan and Andy Tohill. It was co-directors.
Okay. Because I'm already preparing my release a Toe Hill cut. Hashtag as we speak.
Yeah, you care so deeply, you had to get me
Yeah.
to confirm who was directing again. So yeah, David Blue Garcia worked on Tejano, uh, which I've never heard of. So
Nope.
I have no idea to. I mean, the cast is apparently still the same. Elsie Fisher from Eighth Grade, who was very good in that movie, is still in
Oh.
it, along with Sarah Yarkin, Jacob Lattimore, and Mo Dunford. So the cast is staying the
Mhm.
same. So presumably the script is possibly staying
Sure.
the same,
Mhm.
and maybe they just didn't like the direction and
Mhm.
what the directors were doing. Maybe they were going for a different tone. Maybe they just. I mean, it almost sounds unbelievable to think that they hired directors and then looked at their footage and went, "Oh wait, you guys are really bad at this. We can't use this." Uh,
Y- Yeah, and I especially and I assume that this is it's Alvarez is producing it, kind
mm-hmm.
of spearheading it. So I would have assumed that like he maybe had some hand in picking the directors, and there was something about him that he liked, that's why they were doing it. So seems kind of, yeah, it's surprising, like a weekend just to be like, nope, let's scrap it. And then I honestly though, it's definitely distressing to hear this, but then at the same time, like I don't know, it doesn't affect me too much because I didn't know who those directors were, and I don't know who this new director is either. So it's kind of like just switching one unknown for another, you know?
Yeah, that's the weird thing about this is that, on the one hand, maybe this is the right call, and we'll be happy that they recognise there was something wrong and decided to do something about it early on. But this
Mm.
so rarely happens, where we hear about directors being fired like quickly after production started and being replaced. Because
Yeah,
normally, one of two things: either they've picked the right people for the job, or they just kind of accept that they're getting a bad movie and they'll just try and release it and make what money they
yeah.
can. So
Hmm.
maybe this is ultimately a good thing, but it is so rare and so weird that it suggests that some poor choices were made, or creative differences,
Hmm.
or whatever. And this is the thing, because it's not like it's directors again that we know. I mean, it says here they did The Dig together. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, no
So
idea.
it's not like they hired, I don't know, like what's his face?
Like, it feels like it different than, like, I don't know, when Scott Derrickson, like, left Strange 2 or something. Like, I don't know, like, because it feels like maybe that like had more, I don't know, going into it, or something. Like this, it just feels like, I don't know, like,
Well,
Do they?
I was trying to think of a good director. So I was like, I
Uh,
was the point I was trying to make is a director who we like because they've got they're proven, they've made good
mhm.
movies. And for some reason I can't
Well,
think of
I
the
guess it would be
name.
like if Alvarez was directing, like we would have.
Well, yeah, I was trying to
Yeah.
avoid him though because he's producing. I was well, who's the guy that did Hill House and all those other movies?
Oh, Mike Flanagan.
Yes, I was trying to think of his name and I couldn't remember. It'd be like if Mike Flanagan was on a project and got pulled after a week and all his footage was scrapped. We'd all be going like, "Wait, what? Why?
Yeah.
What's going
Mhm.
on?" With this, like, it's so open. Like, could it just be bad? Could it be creative differences? Could it be a number of things? Could it
Mhm.
be that for some reason? I mean, who knows? Maybe one of the directors like got drunk and tried to fight with Fede Alvarez, and it
True.
was like, oh, they've been fired because they were being unprofessional rather than because
Mhm.
the quality of their work was. I mean, we don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting that. I'm not. I'm just throwing wild, different ideas out there. They could be
Yeah.
lovely fellows for all I know.
It's also like kind of tough because Texas Chainsaw doesn't have the best track history. Like I mean, if you go like all the way back to the fourth movie, that was like such a kerfuffle and was like shelved
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, and then same thing with the last one that came out. Like again, like that was something that was like kind of shelved for like a couple of years, and then just unceremoniously just put on like VOD, and it was pretty bad. So yeah, I mean, it's already like I mean, it is a franchise that I do like have genuine love for. Some of the entries, but yeah, it doesn't have like the best track record with other movies getting made.
We
So
reviewed Leatherface, and I barely remember a thing about it. I have to admit.
yeah, it was. I remember it being really bad. um, I mean, still maybe not the worst entry in the series somehow, but yeah, not good.
Yeah, we reviewed that in 2017, so you can go back and check out our
Mhm.
discussion on that. In fact, the whole franchise, we reviewed the whole franchise that year, so you can go back and
Yep.
check all those episodes out. All right, so that's the Texas Chainsaw reboot. Next up, John Carpenter's been teasing in the last
Mm.
week or so. He's been teasing that there's some sort of project with The Thing.
Yep.
It works. So, the Fantasia International Film Festival, John Carpenter took part in an hour-long masterclass conversation filled with questions. I presume this is an online thing because obviously the world's not really doing proper festivals right now. Uh, but there's something happening with The Thing. And so this is from the Blade Disgusting article here. Well, speaking about Jason Blum, Carpenter teased, I think he's going to be working on The Thing, rebooting The Thing. I may be involved with that, maybe down the road. Uh, Very vague.
Yep.
It's actually there's a lot of obvious speculation to be had here because something happened. I think this was last year, where the full version of the original story was discovered. A much longer version of the story.
Mhm.
Um, Frozen Hell. Was the film adaptation. The novella, of course, Who Goes There is what the thing's based on.
Mhm.
But apparently, like the full version was discovered, something like that. I can't remember the exact story, but there was like more material found. Uh,
Okay.
so it makes sense that whatever's in the works is because of that. That there's potential for a more
Mhm.
expanded version.
Yeah. um. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to care. I mean,
Oh,
the
bring the passion, Tim.
well, I mean, like, do you really want to see another Thing movie? Did the last one do that much for you? I mean, I love John Carpenter. I would love to see him, be involved in more movies, even if his later output hasn't been the best. But I feel like he still does have like, greatness in him. But with these kind of vague statements, it's like, oh yeah, I might be involved in it, but I doubt that. Like how much does that really mean? Like, does it just
Well,
mean
no, I mean,
he's gonna
Tim,
get cut out?
we
Yeah,
have basis for this now. Given how his involvement with the new Halloween movies, I suspect it'll be the
sure.
exact same amount of involvement. It'll be that same working relationship, which was also with Blumhouse. So
Yeah, but then it's like if
this isn't as vague as it normally would be. I mean, as much as the statements he's saying are vague, we have precedent now for what this working relationship is. And Carpenter's not made a movie in ages, so I don't think there was ever any speculation here that he was going to
sure.
even touch the director's chair.
But then
For
it's
this.
like why get excited though? Because it's like the that last Halloween movie was not good. So
Well,
and
yeah, but
like
we're in the minority on that.
Yeah.
People like that movie.
Casuals like it. I know.
Yes,
Most
filthy casuals. Filthy casuals.
yeah, a lot of horror fans I talk to like seem to be more on our page, but I mean again, not the worst thing in the world. Like it's not like we've seen plenty of worse movies, but
It wasn't
um
Leatherface, is what you're saying.
yeah, yeah, that's for sure. But no, I just can't get like too excited. Like again, if it's just you know maybe him like just doing like a some slight producing or maybe a little bit of music, like that stuff is cool, but I doubt it's gonna be a great movie. But again, it's like there's we're going off like such little information at this point. Like I can totally change my tune once I like, hey, look at the great director we got, or the person writing, or check out this awesome trailer. Like it could potentially be good, but I mean just going off my initial reactions, it just was like, come on, just the original John Carpenter movie is great. Like just leave it be. We don't really need more.
I mean, there's no reason to suspect that it's going to try and replace that or sequelize that. I mean, it could just be,
I mean, they say, I mean, they said reboot, right? Like it's.
Did they say reboot? I don't think. Oh yeah, well he said reboot. Yes, he said rebooting the thing.
Okay.
But then the new Halloween rebooted Halloween. Rebooting is not
Right.
necessarily remaking. So yeah. So just to clarify, because I wasn't entirely sure when I was speaking about the titles there. Frozen Hell is the title of the expanded version of Who Goes There, which is the story that the thing's
Okay.
based on. So yeah, I
I should
remember
probably read that at some point.
I remember the story of that coming out like last year or 2 years ago, wherever
Yeah.
it was. That they found this longer version of the original story. So it makes sense that at some point someone's going to try and adapt it because it's a reason to do so. I mean, not that they need a reason to remake things, but it's like, hey, we have this new version with all this extra material that no one knew about before, or no one
Yeah.
had access to before, maybe more accurately.
Yeah, I think the other thing is too, like I might be a little more interested or excited if this wasn't like the 10th reboot we have in the works. Like, I mean, I'm sure you're probably going to talk about some of these other ones, but I mean, if you look at what we have coming up, like you just mentioned, Texas Chainsaw, there's this, there's an Exorcist reboot being planned, Urban Legend, um, the new Hellraiser movie. I don't know if that's technically supposed to be a remake or reboot or whatever, but
It's one of them.
they got-
I don't know which one it's claiming to be.
yeah, the what do you call it? The Craft. There's like we have like it's starting to kind of feel like the early mid 2000s again, where it's just like every big horror property is getting like remade, rebooted, resequeled, or whatever. And again, some of them can be cool. Like it's not like we shouldn't do all of them, but it just gets exhausting when it's like every freaking classic horror movie is being remade all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah, it was about Exorcist last week, I think. That was on last week's news.
Yeah. I don't think there's much to it. They said they got an Exorcist reboot planned for 2021, so
Very vague. Yeah, but then again, that's next year, so they have to kind of get going. I mean, horror movies can be done relatively quickly compared to other movies because they're not, big $200 million CG filled blockbusters. But
so I mean I know like for a long time things where production was halted on a lot of things. Are people just back to working now? Because with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I guess we didn't talk about it, but I didn't realize that. Oh yeah, that means that there have been people working on this for a week.
not everywhere, not everything, but there's various productions in various locations are back to work under safety protocols. It's not uncommon now for things to be shooting necessarily. So not maybe not super common either, but it's definitely something that's happening.
Sure.
That is the thing. Yeah, you confused me because you mentioned Texas Chainsaw again. that was the thing reboot news. We got some release dates for stuff coming up. We have Scream 5, which is not called officially Scream 5 yet. And given that this is supposed to be a soft reboot, I suspect it won't be called Scream 5. It'll be called. I mean, they may even pull a Halloween here and just call it Scream, even though it's still a continuation of the continuity because they've got all the cast coming back. But whatever.
Yeah. If I had to put money down, I'm guessing it's just going to be called Scream.
Unless they do something meta with it, like because it's Scream, so I don't know. Scream again or Scream.
Sure. Yeah.
Scream after 2020. I don't know. But yeah, this has been announced for January 14th, 2022. So,
landing that prime January horror spot.
yeah, that's an interesting one. I guess they're trying to make January not be just a dumping ground.
Sure.
They're trying to make it a bit better, but we'll see how it goes. It is worth mentioning Neve Campbell has not been confirmed to be back yet. There's talks apparently, but Courtney Cox and David Arquette are confirmed. We've spoken about that in previous weeks. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, they're definitely planning on shooting a lot of stuff next year because there's a lot of stuff being announced for 2022 that's not been shot yet. So
yeah.
Scream's coming January 2022, and then hey, remember how we thought the Paranormal Activity franchise was done with the sixth one? We thought, that's sixth one,
Sure.
the Final Dimension or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
You know, we thought, we're all done. So, new Paranormal Activity movie is coming out on March 4th, 2022.
Oh my.
Yeah, Christopher Landon is returned to the franchise to help develop the next installment. So.
Okay.
uh.
So they're saying that this is like a. Again, now I feel like I have to ask with like every movie now, but like, are they saying if this is like a remake, reboot, sequel? Any details or?
It doesn't say the words reboot or.
Okay.
It just says new Paranormal Activity movie.
Okay. Just you just have to clarify of everything now.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it does feel like, I mean, I guess it's like been out for a while, but
do you have to clarify? Because so many of these reboots are just sequels that just aren't like.
That's true.
Sometimes the word reboot just means it's coming back. It doesn't mean that it's actually remaking it or starting from scratch. If anything, I would argue the word reboot more often than not means it's not a remake.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, like I feel like it's yeah, a lot of people call it reboots, and it's just like, well, yeah, this could have.
Halloween 2018 was not a remake. How
No.
You know, other examples recently. This Scream 5 is not a remake. You know, if they just end up calling it Scream.
Yeah.
No. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, but yeah, it gets I don't know. I guess. I guess the question then would be, it's just like, oh, is this like more of a sequel keeping in the continuity, or yeah, are they, I don't know, just ignoring past movies and kind of trying to start fresh or whatever. But you mentioned Christopher Landon. I have no idea what he's done with the in terms of the original movies.
Well, I was actually wondering that because he's not the creator. Oren, whatever his name is the creator. Yeah.
Pedal something with a P.
Yeah, Christopher Landon I know from the Happy Death Day movies. That's what he directed.
Okay.
Also, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which was an okay watch.
That's fine. Yeah.
He directed the fifth one. He did the marked ones.
Ooh, I did not like that one.
So
sorry.
Yeah. Well, that did I, but clearly that was his start, and then he went on to do better movies afterwards. So, but I mean, do I care that he's returning? I mean, I'm looking forward to his next movie because he's making that movie about the killer. I can't remember the premise now, but it sounded fun from memory.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I actually do like the Paranormal Activity movies. Like it's, you know, obviously not all of them are good, but
that's what it was. His next movies, it's a body swapping movie where a girl and a serial killer swap places.
Fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it does sound good. But yeah, no, I mean, I still really like the first Paranormal Activity movie. I don't remember much about the second one. I'm sure it's fine. Third one I really like, and then the rest are kind of meh. But well, meh, too bad. But I mean, I still like it enough that I would be interested in another movie.
Yeah, I would maybe say the third one's the best one, and then
yeah,
one's solid enough what it is. Two's okay. Four's really bad, and then 5 and 6 were both just kind of like I didn't think they were as bad as 4. Like 5 and 6 were kind of just eh.
Is 4 the Xbox one?
Yeah, 4's the Kinect one. You know, you've got a problem when one of your sequels is referred to as the Xbox one.
Yeah.
So that is Paranormal Activity 7, and who knows what they're going to call it, but for now that's what we're calling it. So that's back. All right, and I guess this is kind of a reboot. Disney are working on a new Haunted Mansion movie, which is coming from the writer of Goosebumps. No, sorry, not Goosebumps. Sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. Ghostbusters 2016, not Goosebumps. You can see why I saw the G and thought Goosebumps.
Sure.
But Katie Dippold is the writer we're talking about here. So yeah, the Dark Ride attraction, which launched in 1969, is still going strong today at Disney parks. Blah 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 blah. Sees theme park guests go inside spooky and creepy manor that has a wide array of supernatural frights. I mean, I've always been a little bit eye rolly when it comes to making movies based on theme park rides. It feels so. It's the same as making a movie based on a board game. I mean, maybe some board games have more of a plot that you can actually base a movie around. But when they made Battleship, it was like, really, like it's.
Well, I would kind of argue with a little bit with that, just because not every ride, but a lot of the Disney theme park rides, they are actually very like story based. Like, they do have like a lot of animatronics and characters and stuff. Like, yeah, it would be weird if it's just like a roller coaster you're basing a ride off. It's like, okay, but like, yeah, I mean, it's not like they're like super in-depth stories. Like I do agree that it is still kind of weird, but I think like for some of these Disney theme park rides that there are actual like story and character stuff to it that it like you could divulge something out of it.
I'm so excited because they might be able to divulge something out of
it. I mean, I'm not saying that it's like that there's gold there, that it's like gonna be amazing, but
yeah.
I'm obviously against this because for a long time Guillermo del Toro was supposed to be making a haunted mansion movie, and so it seems like that's out the door. So
oh yeah, that dream is dead.
Not crazy about this.
Yeah, that dream is dead. Give it up. But to be fair, your boy Guillermo del Toro does announce 50 new movies a year, and
of course,
only one gets made every 5. So
yeah,
most of them don't happen. Next up, we have the next movie coming from the creators of Host, obviously the Shudder pandemic filmed movie that just came out. We reviewed, of course. So the duo of Rob Savage and Jed Shepard, who are behind it, they've set up the next horror film with Studio Canal that's been compared to The Conjuring and The Descent, only it's set in a prison. So, we have a bit more of a description here. It's not like an official bit of copy though. It's not like they've written a synopsis. The director's just kind of, this is roughly kind of what it is. So Savage says the Untitled movie, so Untitled, that's important to know as well, melding of the prison escape movie and the haunted house movie, in which a group of women who stage an unsuccessful breakout attempt discover a secret room that unleashes a dark presence that marauds the halls at night. The film will have a claustrophobic quality akin to The Descent. Those are very specific comparisons that are being drawn upon there, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds pretty cool to me. I like the Host quite a bit, so I'm interested to see what they're gonna do next. And I do like the idea. You don't really see a lot of horror movies set in prison, and I think it is an interesting setting. And I mean, comparing it to stuff like The Descent, I think sounds pretty cool. So at least for right now, I'm pretty interested. They've sold me at least. And then did they say, is this the one they're working with Sam Raimi on, or is that another one?
It doesn't mention Sam Raimi at all, no. Okay. It just mentions that Savage is directing and Teresa Sutherland is writing, and she wrote The Wind.
Oh, okay. Because I know that that guy Jed, he's very like active on Twitter, especially since like Host came out. People, he seems like a very cool guy. Like seems like he's very responsive. To a lot of people's questions and stuff. But I know he's been tweeting a lot about a project that they're doing with Sam Raimi. So maybe it's maybe this one's already in production, and that's whatever they got coming up next. But cool though. I'm excited for this.
Yeah. Or maybe the Sam Raimi thing fell through, or whatever. Who knows? Or that'll come down the line. But Jed's the producer, by the way, just in case anyone was confused by that. Rob, the director. Teresa Sutherland, the writer. Okay, so that's that. You mentioned Urban Legend earlier. You're spoiling my news stories in advance, you bugger. I mean, this is not a new news actually, to be honest. This was announced back in February, and I'm sure we talked about it at the time. But we do have was this casting news? Casting begins on the reboot, which isn't honestly something we talk about all that much. It's mainly this is just because hey, remember there's an urban legend reboot happening, more than anything else. So yes, it will introduce an iconic new slasher for the digital age in a world where the internet urban legends are born and move at a terrifying pace. So we're getting cyber urban legend.
Okay.
The movie will center a diverse cast of college students as they navigate a series of bizarre deaths that resemble urban legends linked to the darkest corners of social media. I mean, I don't really care about a reboot of Urban Legend. I mean, we've not done these on the show yet, and I'm sure we will at some point.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't we? So, apparently, Sydney Chandler and Catherine McNamara are in talks to star in the reboot. I think I know who Catherine McNamara is. Let me Google her name quickly. See if it's who I think it is. Any thoughts, Tim? While I'm googling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm not like a huge fan of the original movies, but I love urban legends. Like I love hearing about them, reading them. Like I have like books like about famous American urban legends and stuff. So I do like the idea of like a movie that kind of encompasses them and has a serial killer that works off of them. And I mean, I feel like a lot of times kind of you roll your eyes when it's like a movie is like, oh, we're bringing it to the modern age or whatever. But in this case, I do think it kind of works. Like like internet urban legends and stuff are kind of a thing now that gets like spread around. So I don't know. I think it's at least an interesting idea. I mean, who knows about the quality of the movie, but could be cool.
And just to clarify my previous query, Catherine McNamara is not who I thought it was, but I do know who she is. She's Oliver Queen's daughter on Arrow, and she was in the Mortal Instruments show.
Jesus.
Which I remember the pilot being trash. I assume the rest of it was trash, but I cannot speak to that for certain because I never put myself through it. But she's in talks to star. So
okay,
there you go. Urban Legend reboot. Internet urban legends. How long is it before we get I Know What You Did Last Summer? I mean, we're getting Scream again, we're getting Urban Legends again. Surely I Know What You Did Last Summer is right around the corner.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised.
Maybe they'll play with it. It'll be I Know What You Do Next Summer, and they'll do like a weird time trial or something. I don't know.
Okay, sure.
Like I'm just trying to suggest silly things because.
I mean, if it's
short.
If it's set next year, it'll be boring because it'll be like no one did anything. We're all inside.
Unless it's about someone who went around being a serial killer because they knew everyone was like less safe because everyone was in quarantine.
There you go. Something.
Next up, we have trailers. We got the first trailer here from the director of The Strangers, Brian Bertino's new film. He also did The Monster, of course, which I liked and Tim didn't, but hey, that's the thing.
Yeah. I didn't really like The Strangers either, so.
Oh, you didn't?
No. Oh, yeah. Already off to a bad start.
Well, then, we'll see if we can win you over then with this new trailer. It's called The Dark and the Wicked, and it's been acquired by RLJE Films and Shudder. It's coming to theaters later this year. I assume that means it's coming to Shudder later. Yeah, 2021. It's coming to Shudder exclusively next year. So, here's a description. On a secluded farm in a nondescript rural town, a man is slowly dying. His family gathers to mourn, and soon a darkness grows, marked by waking nightmares and a growing sense that something evil is taking over the family. What did you make of the trailer?
Didn't do much for me. Yeah, I do like the kind of rural farm setting. Like seeing all the animals and stuff. So I thought that was cool, but yeah, it didn't really give me much sense of a story. But I don't know. Oh, I'm still not like I'm not dreading it. Like I'll, still willing to give it a shot. But this trailer didn't do much for me. So
it didn't do much for me either. And I like both of Bertino's previous films. I mean, he may have done more than that, but the two notable ones that he's done, I've liked both of.
Mm.
This, I mean, I think the actress in this was in a farmhouse setting in Umbrella Academy season 2, and I really didn't like that plotline or character that much. So I think that had it going against it for me right from the start. But honestly, this is going for more of a supernatural take, seemingly, from the trailer. I felt a lot of kind of generic movie sort of like evil is coming speeches, a lot of evil is coming sort of moments, and it doesn't necessarily look visually bad, but the trailer itself didn't do a good job of selling me on anything. Now, that doesn't actually mean that I've lost all hope for it, but I just don't think it's a great trailer.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, I'm still willing to give it a shot, but yeah, it doesn't really do much to get you like excited.
Yeah. So that's The Dark and the Wicked. Next up, we got a trailer for a movie that we just learned about like last week because Netflix, announced things, and then, well, I think we knew there was a Babysitter sequel coming a while ago, but we got the official announcement and date last week. This week we got a trailer for it, which makes sense given that it's coming in a couple of weeks' time. So this is the Babysitter Killer Queen, and one of the questions I had when we read the description and all the stuff was that, well, a lot of the characters seem to be coming back. A lot of the actors whose characters seemingly died, and I was going to say passed away. Passed away is not quite right when they were all murdered in self-defense by the 12-year-old kid. But it seems that it's going a bit more full supernatural. If you remember correctly, the plot of the first film the whole reason why the babysitter and her friends were doing what they were doing is they were trying to basically sacrifice the kid to some demon or devil god that they wanted to get fortunes from. And it seems that whatever demon or whatever they were talking to has brought them back so that they can raise hell and try and accomplish something. We see most of the main cast from the first film, with the exception of Samara Weaving, who they've not actually confirmed if she's back yet, although the end of the trailer does seem to suggest that she's going to appear. It teases it heavily at the end. We see what appears to be her from behind coming out of the water, so they're building up to her deeply. But obviously it's notable that the main character and the sort of love interest are both much older in this. I mean, I say much older, and what I mean is that they're going through puberty, so they've jumped from like 12 to like 15, 16 between films.
I think, I was trying to think of like how old they were in the previous movie, because in the trailer it says like 2 years later, but I don't know, he looks pretty like old, like.
Yeah, he was like 12, 13 in the first one. I think because part of the plot points was that he was kind of old to have a babysitter. That was one of the early plot beats of that film. So I think it makes sense. But clearly he was probably like a year or two older than the character was when he shot it. And then obviously he's at that age where he's growing quite heavily. Yeah. And the movie's actually 3 years after the last one. So there's a lot of little fudging. So even if it's set 2 years later, it's actually been 3 years. And he was probably like a year older when he shot the first one. So he's probably like 16, 17 in real life.
Yeah.
In this now.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like not a huge deal. I was just curious because like, oh yeah, he looks older than I would have thought. But
yeah,
no, that makes sense.
So yeah, all the teens from the previous film show up and raise hell. The comedy seems to still be there. You've got the kid and his neighbor love interest who were kind of like grew close by the end of the first film, kind of teaming up against all these villainous. I mean, I don't know if spirits is the right term. They seem to still function as human, in the trailer. So it's went supernatural to bring them back, but it doesn't feel like they're just ghosts or anything like that, which is good because I think that would kind of ruin the humor of it if he couldn't like hurt them. Because I mean, a lot of the fun of the first one was him fighting back and all that stuff. So. Now, the first one was such a pleasant surprise that I doubt that this one's going to be as good just because we have expectations get into it, but it looks fine. It looks like it's fun still.
Yeah, I imagine it'll be like, like probably not amazing, but it seems to be kind of keeping like the same tone and everything as the first one, and I think it'll, at the very least, it'll just be fun, like. Seeing these characters back, and I'm sure they'll probably think of like some interesting, like, inventive kills and stuff, which is basically what you're looking for.
Pretty much, yeah. Trailer looks fine. I'm excited. We're doing this for the October-thon, I think. So look forward to our review of The Babysitter Killer Queen. And then the final trailer we're going to talk about this week is a film called Come Play, which stars Gillian Jacobs, who's playing mum characters now, which makes me feel a little bit old. I'm not going to lie. So, based on the short film Larry, this is coming from Jacob Chase, and it's it's about a kid who's autistic and uses like his phone and tablets and apps on them to help with his learning, and seemingly a haunted kind of like story invades his tablets, which leads to the monster in the stories actually materializing and appearing by the I assume in the third act of the movie, if not before then.
Yeah.
But the trailer kind of shows this. It shows the kid interacting with other friends or not even friends, like other kids, because he's having trouble making friends, and then kind of them awakening whatever this is through the tablet. It's so funny now that we're getting so many movies where something's awoken through the internet or through tablets, because hey, that's what we have now. For some reason it feels less, I don't know, believable is not the right word, but it there's something about like finding old books or finding like like tactile things and that having some sort of, I guess it's just because books and stuff like have existed for hundreds and thousands of years, so I mean, maybe not like books precisely, because obviously the idea of binding's not been around that it's been around for a long time, but not like the idea being that you can find like something written down or typed on a bit of paper from a long time ago, so it feels like it's got this ageless quality to it, whereas anything from a tablet or a phone is like, well, this is 10 years old.
Yeah.
That.
I don't know, certainly. I mean, I think even something like something like The Ring, where it's like a videotape, like even that feels like more like spooky or something about like this older technology. I think there's something about like items that are physical, as opposed to whatever, like something like the internet or computers where things are like running on like man-made codes and stuff like that.
When you think about it, you mentioned The Ring there. Like VHS, while it was kind of towards the end of its life cycle by the time The Ring happened, it was only around from the end of the 70s. It wasn't. I mean, it was 20 years old. Like I'm complaining that something through the internet and a tablet feels too new age, but
sure,
it's not. Like, I mean, it's not that different. It's only about half the time that the VHS was around when The Ring happened, and
I guess like I mean part of it too is that like we use these things in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, maybe if it'd be different if we all started using like virtual reality stuff and like actual computers and typing and stuff started to go away, then like maybe I don't know, there'd be more of a sense of spookiness to it or something. I don't know, but
I'm not saying that it can't be done well and there's not examples of it being done well, but there's something just inherently about the concept for me about spooky stuff coming through the internet that just inherently I'm against until it proves me otherwise. Well, what did you think of the actual trailer though? I mean, we're talking about the premise. What did you think of the trailer itself?
Didn't look great. I am kind of interested in it, but I mean, it just seems like it has a lot of the trappings of these kind of supernatural horror movies that we don't like. Like there wasn't really anything that like stood out about it to me.
Yeah, it's got a lot of these things, and while maybe the fact that the kid's autistic is a little bit different to some other stuff, it didn't feel that different to a lot of other movies where a kid's at the center of the supernatural stuff, and obviously. We all think of the Babadook, for example, as maybe a key example of that. But even just stuff like,
like having Slender Man kind of reminded me of.
Oh yeah, but that wasn't about a kid though.
Right, but I mean it. It doesn't necessarily have to be just kid stuff.
The monster's very Slender Man-esque. I agree with that. But no, I was thinking more stuff like Ouija, Origin of Evil, or stuff where you've got kids at the center of it, and the kids. They're getting scared or
and pleading to the parents don't believe them, and blah blah blah. And they're having trouble at school, and
I'm not sold on it. It's coming out October 31st, so you know, it's out on Halloween, which is actually kind of late in a weird way because it's like, okay, there's a novelty to it to say you're coming out on Halloween, but you kind of need to be out like the weekend before so people can.
Yeah.
I mean, not that people are going to the theaters as much right now, but
Yeah.
still. So that's October 31st. Come Play is coming out, and that wraps up the
Who
news.
knows? Maybe Larry will be the next big what do you call it? Like horror icon.
Yeah, I do vaguely remember talking about this when it was announced. I remember
Yeah.
Larry and I remember Gillian Jacobs being in it. I'd forgotten about it till obviously I watched the trailer. But
What's really weird in the trailer is there's a couple of places where like it seemed like it was like weirdly almost on purpose or something. Like it was trying to hide like Gillian Jacobs' like face because like I thought it was her, but then I was like, let me see if I can get like a clear shot. And then like they kept kind of like I don't know obscuring her enough to I was like, well, geez, is that her or not? And then like by the end they had like a full shot of her. It's like okay, yeah, it's definitely her. But I don't know. I thought it was like weird, like almost like they're trying to surprise you or something.
I never noticed such a thing, but sure.
If you go back and watch it, there's like a couple of scenes where it's like I was like, oh, why they're not like showing her head or her face or anything.
I don't think they treated it like a reveal though. I think the movie just doesn't care the fact that it's got Gillian Jacobs in it. It's all about the kid and the spooky monster. Kid and the spooky monster. There's a kid and the spooky monster. Yeah. I think that's all they really care about. But there you go. That is the news for the week. Interesting. Some interesting things. It's a bit of a mixed bag. But isn't it always? I suppose. Isn't it always?
Sure.
Of course, let us know about what you think about the news that we brought up. Please do liking super important on YouTube, and it helps us keep finding new audience members and creating content and all the rest of it. So please do click the like button. You can also support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month. And for that $1, you get bonuses, and you get a bonus episode of Screams After Midnight every month, in particular, and you get more at the higher tier. So go have a look and see if you're interested, and keep all the content coming. Otherwise, they'll get us on Twitter at Screams Midnight. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we will see you next time.